Welcome to Never Too Late for Fitness Radio, bringing baby boomers proven strategies and innovative products for getting fit, staying fit, so you can live a longer, healthier, and happier life. Here's your host, best-selling author and fitness advocate, Phil Ferris.
This is Phil Ferris, and welcome to our show. Never Too Late for Fitness Radio provides answers and straight talk about fitness, nutrition, and healthy lifestyles for people over 50. During each show, we talk to real health and fitness professionals solving real problems with proven solutions people can apply in their day-to-day life. Today's guest is Heidi Zwart, a professional coach, counselor, personal trainer, and author. She's helped hundreds of clients make healthy lifestyle changes. Her habit-based change has helped people lose weight, eat better, work out smarter, sleep better, reduce stress, and regain their self-confidence. Her new book, It Began in a Garden, weaves the biblical story of Adam and Eve with our shared struggle with physical, emotional, and spiritual health. Through stories, humor, and dozens of practical tips, It Began in the Garden will help you discover hope, encouragement, and resources for making fresh choices that will lead to a healthier future. So Heidi, to help our listeners fully appreciate your unique perspective that you bring to your clients, can you share a little bit about your background and how you help your clients make healthy changes?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. You mentioned the fancy stuff. You mentioned the degrees and the certifications, but really my health and wellness journey started when I needed help too. It was right around that magical age of 40 for women when my body started changing, and I was gaining weight, and I was feeling anxious and depressed, and realized I really needed to do something. So I found a fitness program that worked for me, and had really good results with that. And that kind of kick-started a new focus for me. My background had been in counseling, so I really had a passion for helping people. So I began coaching other people and helping them find the right fitness programs for them. I specifically dove into life coaching, and I found that a lot of people had this common struggle with their health and wellness. So things like weight and what to eat and how to work out better came up. And so I found that as I was talking with people about their fitness, the nutrition piece was kind of the key. It was the missing component. People were working out like crazy, but they weren't eating well. So I specifically focused on that area of nutrition, and I found a program that was fit very well with my counseling background. It was about habit-based change. So using habits and using behavior change became the focus of the kind of coaching that I did and have done ever since. It intuitively made sense to me to make small steps with habits because it's what I personally had experienced alongside of my husband on our health and wellness journey.
Well, that's a great story. Can you talk a little bit about the clients that you do work with? You mentioned when we talked earlier that you work a lot with women 40 to 65 who want to make peace with their body and their life. Why have you focused on that particular group?
Well, first and foremost, it's because it's me. It's my story. It's part of where I started my struggle was at that age, and it's a group that I can relate to. We're the ones who are turning around, and one day all of a sudden we're going, what happened to my body? I used to have a certain kind of body, or the things that I used to eat didn't cause me to gain weight. Why is that happening now? The metabolism is changing, and menopause is kind of sneaking up. So it's not only what happened to my body, but it's what happened to my life. It's a big transitional age for people. Maybe they have kids going off to college, or there are some major life changes where we maybe now are going, what's next? I don't really know what's happening in the future for my life. And so it's an area that I can relate to, and I think it's a major point of transition for women.
Now, at that particular age group, it's not only the physical part of the changes that's going on, it's also some of the emotional ones as well, right? Because
definitely,
their life is at a critical point usually of change. You talk about what's next, that transition. How does that play into the I guess the weight gain, the weight loss, and the desired change at that point?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you nailed it. It's a lifestyle change that starts to happen. It not only does our metabolism kind of start to revolt on us, but it becomes this identity, almost an identity crisis issue, because maybe we've been at home with the kids, raised our kids, they're starting to leave, and that stress can also cause biological changes. So our bodies respond to the emotional stress that we start dealing with at this particular time in our life.
Okay. So let me talk a little bit about why clients specifically seek you out. What is it that they're hoping to get by working with you?
Sure. Well, I think a lot of my clients have a really long history of dieting. I think that's a common theme for women. They have seen the effects of quick diets, maybe have had some success, but nothing's worked long term. So I think that people seek me because they are frustrated. They're very confused because there's no shortage of diet options. They are coming at us from the media, from our social media, from our friends, anywhere we turn. And honestly, I think they're just tired and they want some support. I think they feel a little bit lost in their own life. And they want to feel better. They're tired of being tired.
Okay. So how do you go about helping them achieve their goals? And when someone first comes to you, how do you initially work with them?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because I think sometimes, again, given our history of dieting, we want a quick fix. We're not generally patient people. So I think the first thing I do is just help them understand that this is a process, that this will take time, that I'm not going to hand them a meal plan, which I think is often what people want. But we talk about why habits work. So we start with that general philosophy, but let me back up just a second. What I really do is I really just get to know people because I think that we've become adept at trying to find a one-size-fits-all solution, and there just isn't one. So my goal is always to customize, to understand somebody's life, to understand their stress and sleep patterns, in addition to their history of dieting, their history with exercising. Those things are all really, really important. So we talk about how to eat rather than what to eat. I mentioned I don't give out meal plans, and oftentimes people think that changing their health is reliant on what they eat, and ultimately they're right, but it's also about how they eat and their relationship with food.
Can you talk a little bit about that notion of relationship with food?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We have a long, complicated history with food from the time we were really infants, and food as children is often used to soothe, to quiet, to calm people down, and oftentimes we equate food with love, and it becomes this really complicated emotional relationship with food. I think a lot of people would say that they're emotional eaters. So when things are either really good or really bad, we often turn to food. So it's understanding some of those triggers and understanding how to respond in a way that's more positive to those triggers rather than turning to food if weight, for example, is an issue.
And I think it's pretty complicated because a lot of the relationships that we make are when we're in 4, 5, 6 years old, and we're making these relationships, and they stay with us. So as one person told me, it's I could be 45 and I'm making a decision about food from the mindset of a 4-year-old.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
And I'm just saying, we don't realize why we just instinctively want that. And then we say, it can't hurt. Or, it's only one. It's just one bad day. And they rationalize it from the mindset of, a young child when those relationships were made, and they haven't really reprogrammed themselves. So
absolutely.
The other thing that I thought was very interesting in what you do and how you do it is you utilize the Bible and a faith-based perspective in your work. And again, the notions I've heard before, but the way you presented it makes a lot of sense. So can you talk a little bit about how using that faith-based approach helps your clients get results?
Definitely. I think that, we focus so much, it's very natural when we talk about nutrition and exercise to focus on our body. And that is, often related to what we look like. And I think that sometimes we've lost our focus on who we truly are, that we were created a certain way. We were created with a particular image, and that image is in the Judeo-Christian belief is that we were created in the image of God. And so when we take our focus off of what we look like and our appearances, then we're able to we put less focus on our weight and more focus on health. So we talk about when you're healthy, what can you do? Because you were uniquely created to do something specific while you're here on earth. So if your lack of health is impacting that purpose, then how can we get you back to a better state of health? So it becomes about health and wellness over weight. And I think that's a big shift. I also think that, our mind, our body, and our spirit are intricately connected. And so we can't talk about just the body. We can't talk about just our emotional health. We have to address the spiritual health as well. And that's a real missing component in a lot of health and wellness programs.
Can you give an example of how those three play out, perhaps with one of your clients, or example of how that, the spiritual aspect had an impact over on the nutritional side or on the weight side?
Yeah, so I think that, again, it's going back to realizing, let's use the example of a pastor, somebody who's leading a church. When they are struggling with disease, for example, they are not capable of fully leading their congregation and the people who are turning to them to lead them on their spiritual journey. And so when we can get them to eat better and to exercise more and to just move in a healthier way, it becomes more about honoring your temple, honoring the body and the one and only the body that you were given for the purpose for which you were created.
Okay, so that it allows you, by being healthier, then you're able to accomplish more of what you're meant to be.
Exactly.
About being the whole person as opposed to just looking at the separate components. Okay.
Right. It's about looking at how your life could be better and how much more impactful you can be when you are healthy.
It's kind of interesting because a lot of people come to a coach and they'll say, if I can only lose 10 pounds, if I can only do this thing, and then they may accomplish that thing, but then it doesn't last, and it really doesn't solve the problem because it's a symptom of the bigger problem that's part of what you're talking about.
Right.
And your approach is to try and look at the whole canvas so that people can make choices that will affect them long term.
Exactly.
Now, a lot of people haven't worked with a healthy living coach and don't really know what to expect. So what kind of misconceptions do people have about working with someone like you or a health coach?
Absolutely. I think that's a great question because I think the biggest misconception is that I'm going to take everything away from them. I'm going to make life a little less fun. I'm going to take away all the foods that they like. I'm going to tell them to stop drinking their Diet Coke or having desserts or take away all their sugar. And that just simply is not our starting place. That is not my job. My job is to add things into your life that are going to make your life better. So as an example, rather than taking away Diet Coke, I might ask you to drink an extra glass of water a day. Rather than, telling you can't have desserts, what if we were to add a piece of dark chocolate after your evening meal so that you got the sensation of the sweet with a healthier choice? So I think that's the biggest misconception, is that people think I'm going to ruin their fun, that I'm going to be all or nothing and take everything away, because that's what diets have been. So changing the way people eat, looking at things a little bit differently, is part of my goal as a coach. They also think that things are going to be fast, and so that's another misconception. And so there is a requirement for patience for sure.
Okay, and that's probably a hurdle everybody's got to get through, because everybody looks at the supermarkets or on TV, and it's instant results, 30 days without dieting,
Yes.
and you lose weight, and you get six-pack abs, and it just doesn't. And I think you talk about that as the temptation is everywhere. And
Absolutely.
You just understand that marketing is designed to get you to do things that you normally wouldn't want to do, and you correlate temptation to Satan as the constant temptation that Adam and Eve experienced.
Right.
You also talk in your book, It Began in the Garden, you talk about the power of habit and developing the habit muscle. Can you talk a little bit about how you use that to help people gain more control of their life, and how they go about making better habits?
Most of our daily life is made up of habits, honestly. Things that we do habits are basically things that we do automatically without thinking about them. And habits can be our very best friend. They are things that reserve brain power for more important decisions. So we walk into a room and we turn on the light. We wake up in the morning and we brush our teeth. Those are things that are habits, and those are things that work to our benefit. On the flip side, habits can also work against us. So habits like going to a certain restaurant and knowing you're always going to get a burger and fries because it's what you always do. Not exercising, driving past the gym every day on your way home from work. Those are habits that don't work so well for you. So habits can work to our benefit, but we have to choose the right ones. So our habits around food need to be tweaked a little bit so that we build in new habits for our success. So oftentimes with habits, if you think about Mondays, for example, Mondays are do-over days, right? We want to change everything. We want to do everything differently, and unfortunately, we do things too fast. So a successful habit change happens when we focus on just one thing at a time instead of 10 or 5 or even 2. Research has shown that even trying to change 2 things at a time significantly reduces our success rate. In fact, we go from an 85% success rate if we focus on one habit at a time down to 35% just by adding a second habit. And if we add 3 or more, we're down to less than 15%. So we can make habits work for us, but we have to do it appropriately, and we have to do it slowly.
Okay. And another thing you talked about in habits was the concept of shaping the path. Can you talk a little bit about how shaping the path with habits makes success more attainable?
Definitely. So if you think about your environment, let's think about your kitchen, and think about the things that you see if you open up your pantry or your refrigerator. The things that are toward the front are going to be the things that you tend to grab. We forget the things that are in the back. We forget the things that are in the drawers. So if you were to want to eat more fruits and vegetables, those are usually tucked in a drawer, and even if it has a clear front, you generally will still go for the things that are at eye level. So if your goal is to eat more fruits and vegetables, then one of the ways that you can shape your environment or shape your path would be to have those fruits and vegetables at eye level when you open up the refrigerator. If your goal is to, let's say, do some bicep curls or do any kind of weight training, you could put those dumbbells on your favorite chair that you usually sit down on at the end of your day to watch TV. So you don't have to skip the TV, but why not do the bicep curls while you're watching TV? So those are some examples of how you can shape your environment to help you build new habits so that you're automatically doing things. You're automatically grabbing the apples and the oranges and the fruits and the vegetables or doing some weights while you're watching TV.
Okay. Most programs or coaching involving change like diet or exercise, nutrition, have a wall or an obstacle that must be overcome to really get success. What tends to be the wall for your clients, and how do you help them overcome it?
I think the biggest one is something we touched on a little bit earlier, is that we're impatient. We don't like to wait. We want the 30-day results. We want the 21-day results. And habit change does take time, and it takes a lot of practice. So if you were to want to get better at anything, the best way to do that is to do it over and over again. So we tend to want those fast results. We want that immediate gratification. So we overcome this by focusing on the small wins and rebuilding a success mindset. And when I say that, what I mean is, if we have a history of dieting, if we have a history of failing at dieting, at the first sign of us breaking a rule that we have for dieting, we go back into that failure mindset. We go back into, oh, here I go again, so I'm just going to give up right now. Instead of building in small wins, so we practice, when I work with my clients, I typically will, we agree on a mutual habit, let's say drinking a glass of water for 2 weeks, for 14 days. So you build that habit, and somebody goes, okay, I did that for 14 days. And then they start to build that self-belief. They start to realize that they can, in fact, do that. Just as an example, I have 2 women right now who are kind of this listener's age group, who are actually in their 60s, who have lost about 1 pound a week for the time we've been working, and they're now down 15 to 20 pounds, and they've lost 10 to 12 inches. So they have a long, complicated history with dieting and with their body. And yet when they followed this method, those are the results that they've seen. So it's never, ever too late to make habit-based changes and healthy lifestyle changes.
Okay. Now I want to shift the focus a little bit to your story in terms of a change you wrote about. You said that you got into a period where the reason why you weren't working out and weren't losing weight was everything outside the world. And that when you change your locus of control, I think you called it, things changed. And can you talk about that moment and that shift and why that's so important for people to make in order to have sustainable results?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we tend to be people who like to find things to blame. We don't like to take responsibility for our choices or for the bad things that happen to us. And as long as we're pointing our fingers, as long as we're pointing at something else being the cause, we are probably not going to see a lot of sustainable change. When we start to realize that we do have control, we don't have control over everything in our life. We have a very small circle of control. But when we recognize what things we personally have responsibility for, the things that we can control, things like, I'm going to go back to that basic example of drinking water. You can always drink water. It doesn't matter where you are or what your setting and situation is. When you realize that you can do those small things, everything shifts, because you realize that you do have control even in a day that might seem out of control. There are always things within that day and that environment that you can control.
Okay, then I think that's a powerful message. I think you said that for you, the thing that broke you out of it was deciding to sign up for an exercise program that was just like, okay, I'm making this decision and I'm going to do it. And I think you said that you recruited your husband to get a support system.
Yeah.
And then by doing that, you said, okay, now I'm getting the results because I went outside myself, and I said, no, this is something I can do. And that's when I'm in control of my body, I'm in control of my habits, I'm in control of my surroundings. Then I'm free to make choices. And if I make a bad choice, that's okay. I understand it because I made that choice, and I can not make it the next time.
Yes. You hit on another key point, which is that accountability. So yes, you are responsible for your choices, but when you bring somebody alongside of you, those choices become a little bit easier to make because you have somebody who's in it with you, doing it alongside of you. So an accountability partner, whether it be a spouse or a family member or a friend or a coach, those are the best possible ways to increase your success as you're starting to take responsibility for your own choices.
Okay. Now, Heidi, many people have never worked with a coach before and may not know if they could benefit from coaching. What are some guidelines people can use to determine if coaching can help them?
Well, I'm a little bit biased, obviously, because I think that everybody needs a coach. I'm a coach, and I have a coach. I have somebody who coached me through my nutrition program. I have somebody who coached me to become a better nutrition coach. I have exercise instructors who coach me. If you think about the very best athletes, the very best actors, the very best at anything, they have coaches. They have people who have come alongside of them. So if there's something in your life that is not working, like I mentioned, that accountability piece is exponentially increases your chances of success. So if you're challenged in life in any of those areas, emotionally, physically, or spiritually, having somebody who maybe has been there and done that, somebody who can guide you through the pitfalls, or maybe they just can see outside of the world that you tend to kind of get stuck in, because we all get stuck in our own life. A coach is your best built-in support system for success. You have to be willing to work, though. The coach is not going to do the work for you, so you have to be willing to put in effort, and you have to be willing to think differently, to be willing to explore new paths, because the one that you're on is currently not working.
I guess that's the first decision you have to make, is saying if it's not working, own that. Yeah. Because finding a coach to tell you to keep on doing the same stuff is not going to give you different results. So
exactly. I think one of the things that I talk with people about is, if you fast forward your life and you go forward a year, the question is, do you like what you see? And if the answer is yes, then keep doing what you're doing. But if you don't like what life looks like a year from now, then it's probably time to make a change of some kind. There's something that needs to change, and a coach can help you do that.
Okay, great. I think that's a great analogy to use. If people listening want to learn more about you, your work, or would like to purchase your book, It Began in the Garden, where can they go?
So my website is very simple, although my name is not simple, so I'll spell it for you. My own website is www.heidizwart.com. So that's HEIDI, Z as in zebra, WART.com. And my book is available on Amazon. And so if you go to Amazon.com and just type in It Began in the Garden, you'll find a link to that book as well. You'll also find that through my website, you'll find a link to Amazon as well.
Well, great. Well, Heidi, I want to thank you so much for taking time on the show. I know there's a lot of women out there that really appreciate your message and have benefited from your insights and the practical knowledge that you shared here, and hopefully gave them the confidence to look at their lives in a way that allow them to make the positive changes that they want to make and live a more fulfilling life going forward. So again, thank you so much for helping our listeners live a healthier life.
Thank you, Phil. I appreciate the opportunity and to talk to your listeners.
You've been listening to Never Too Late for Fitness Radio, hosted by Phil Ferris. To learn more about the guests or resources on our show today, or to listen to past episodes, go to nevertoolateforfitness.com.